Good morning, students. We'll continue the lesson Mother's Day. In the previous class, we did the introduction as well as the discussion between Mrs. Fitzgerald and Mrs. Pearson, and also Doris, who used to trouble her mother. Right? So, the conversation between Doris and her mother is quite unpleasant. We left the lesson here. So you can open page number 41. Right? No, you must open page number 38. Right? So you can open your books and you can open page number 38. Right? Let me share the screen also. Yes. Page number 38. This part we have read, and yes, yes, we left at the place where Doris is arguing with her mother and she is going out, right? So, with Charlie Spence, and her mother is saying, and her mother said at the time, we were here, out with Charlie Spence. Why? You can't find someone better? What's the matter with you? Okay, go on. You might as well as tell me. Now, this paragraph where why? What is the matter with you? Why shouldn't I go out with Charlie Spence if he asked me to? If he asked me and I want to? Any objections? So she's talking to her mother this way, which is not a decent way of talking. This is the problem of Mrs. Pearson, that her family members does not treat her well. They do their work, they come home after their studies, after their plans, they again go out without considering any or without giving any importance to their mother. And similarly, Mr. Pearson is also like that. Right? So, we'll read the conversation and we'll come to know the dialogues are before us on the screen. What is the matter with you? Why shouldn't I go out with Charlie Spence if he asks me and I want to? Any objections? Go on, you might as well tell me. Can't you find anybody better? Mrs. Pearson, can't you find anyone better? I wouldn't be seen dead with Charlie Spence. Buck teeth and half-witted. Buck teeth, where the teeth are little, sticking out. So she's making fun of, Mrs. Pearson is making fun of Charlie Spence and equally teasing her mother. But if you remember, this is not Mrs. Pearson. This is Mrs. Fitzgerald impersonating Mrs. Pearson. And not only impersonating, there have been magical effects also. She looks like Mrs. Pearson, only her ways are not like Mrs. Pearson now. Those mild ways of talking to the family members are not there. Now Doris argues, he isn't. When I was of your age, I would have found somebody better than Charlie Spence or given myself up as a bad job. I would have stopped doing. If I had not found someone better than Charlie Spence, I would have stopped finding out, the mother says. Every time I'll remind you that this is not Mrs. Pearson, you have to understand they are changed personalities now. Right? So, oh, shut up. Now this Doris is angry and Mrs. Pearson is chuckling, laughing quietly. She's feeling good that I have taught a nice lesson. After a moment, Cyril Pearson enters left. He's the masculine counterpart of Doris, like he's similar to Doris, ill-mannered and argumentative and very dominating. Mom, tea ready? No. Why not? I couldn't bother. Feeling off color or something? Never felt better in my life. Are you not feeling well? Then Mrs. Pearson answered, I have never felt better in my life. What's the idea then? Just to change. Well, snap out of it, ma, and get cracking. Haven't too much of time. Now Cyril is saying, I don't have too much of time. Kindly get out of this scenario and please make tea. Well, snap out of it, ma, and get cracking. Haven't too much of time. Cyril is about to go when Mrs. Pearson's voice checks in. I have plenty of time. Yes, but I haven't. Got a busy night tonight. Did you put my things out? Can't remember. Now see the conversation between son and the mother. Earlier it was Doris and Mrs. Pearson. So they treat their mother like this. They make her work, they don't take care, they don't talk, they come and go and come and go. And as if they are stuck up in a vicious cycle, which they themselves don't know, and the mother who's reminding them, they're not listening to her. So can't remember, but I doubt it. New look. When I asked you this morning, you promised, you said you had have to look through them first in case there was any mending. In the morning, you said that you're going to mend my clothes, mend my things, if there is any requirement. And now you're saying you didn't have time and all. Yes, well, now I have decided I don't like mending. That's a nice way to talk. What would happen if we all talk like that? You all do talk like that. Now she says, you all do. It's not me or I'm doing this today. Every day you do. If there is something at home you don't want to do, you don't do it. If it is something at your work, you get the union to bar it. Now all that has happened is that I have joined the movement. Now I have joined your movement, right? I've also become like you. I don't get this, mom. What is going on? Now, Mrs. Pearson, keep your, dear students, keep your this silent, mute, okay? Audio's off, okay? I don't get this, mom. What is going on? Now, laconic and sinister. You can note down these. Yesterday also there was a word dubiously. You can write doubtfully. We have shared all these, but still you can write. So the meanings of these, that Mrs. Pearson is speaking less. She is laconic, right? And also, you know, like she is looking evil little. Sinister, evil. She is looking dangerous. When moms get angry, they look dangerous, right? And this is already a dangerous mother, Mrs. Fitzgerald, not Mrs. Pearson. So, Doris enters left. Now, Doris and Cyril both are there. You look terrible. I wouldn't wear that face even for Charlie Spence. Now, mother says to Doris, you look, you know, like terrible. Telling her daughter that you are looking terrible, she becomes more angry. Moving above the table angrily, oh, shut up about Charlie Spence. And anyhow, I am not ready yet, just dressing. And if I do look terrible, it is your fault. You made me cry. That's why I am looking terrible. Right? So, why? What did she do? What did she do? The brother asked the sister. Cyril asked Doris, never you mind. Have you any stout left? I can't remember. Rising and preparing to move in the kitchen. She's preparing her glass of drink and she's saying, have you got any stout left? Bottle or two, I think, but you don't want stout now. Mrs. Pearson, I do want it. What for? To drink, you clot, you stupid person. To drink or for what? So this way the conversation is little heated up. Heated up in the sense means it's not actually like heated up, but we can say that it is not pleasant also. Unpleasant conversation between the family members, and this is the problem, the conflict in the lesson, Mother's Day. Coming to the title of the lesson, Mother's Day, it's a significant day. Mother's Day, Father's Day, we do all celebrate, but this family is spoiling every day of the month, right? And let's move further. Mrs. Pearson exits right. Instantly, Cyril and Doris are in a huddle close together at left center, rapidly whispering. Now, both the brother and the sister are talking. And what are they talking? What has happened in the family? Has she been like that with you too? Yes, no tea ready. Couldn't care less. Well, I'm glad it's both of us. I thought it is me only. Only with one she's behaving. I thought I have done something, I had done something wrong. Children are often troubled when the parents scold them that what have I done and I didn't do, whether they know or not. So these things are very common, but here it is not so common. She was smoking and playing cards when I came in. I couldn't believe my eyes that she was smoking and playing cards. Dear students, let me remind you, is it Mrs. Pearson or Mrs. Fitzgerald? You answer my question. Who is this person who is right now as acting as the mother or is the mother? Is she the mother or Mrs. Fitzgerald? Remind yourself. You can answer also, you can unmute and speak also. Who is she? Yes? Achal, Mehak?
Ma'am, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Yes, it is Mrs. Fitzgerald, and she is teaching a nice lesson. What she has promised a friend that you go in my house and relax for a couple of hours, and I'll teach your family a nice lesson. And they had decided, and they had done that magic. She has done that magic spell, and now this is the conversation between Doris and Cyril. Well, I'm glad it is both of us. I thought I had done something wrong. So did I, but it is her, of course. She was smoking and playing cards when I came in. I couldn't believe my eyes. I asked her if she was feeling off color, and she said she wasn't. I asked her if she was not feeling well. She said she's well, quite well. Well, she's suddenly all different. What has happened to her? She was so mild in the morning, and now all of a sudden this change. And that's what made me cry. It wasn't what she said, but the way she said it and the way she looked. Haven't noticed that. She looks just the same to me. She doesn't to me. Do you think she could have hit her head or something, and got, what is it, like they're talking, has she hit with something? Or she's fallen down from the stairs or has got some head injury inside and do you mean she's balmy? Now underline this word with your pencil, balmy, crazy. Write down crazy. Do you mean she has become all of a sudden crazy? No, you fathead. Concussion. She might have. This is temporary loss of, consciousness. Concussion. When you become unconscious for a moment and when you come back, you forget the things and all. She might have. Sounds far-fetched. Well, she's far-fetched. If you ask me, what is this far-fetched? It is difficult to believe today the way she's behaving, right? And suddenly she begins to giggle. But it's not the matter to giggle, their mother is behaving very awkward. If she's going to be like this when dad comes home, what will happen? She giggles again. If she'll behave with the dad also like this, what disaster will fall on the house? So then Cyril also started guffawing, right? And what is this word Guffaw? To laugh noisily. He's also started laughing, right? I am staying in for that. Two front dress circles for the first house. And Mrs. Pearson enters right carrying a bottle of stout and a half-filled glass. Cyril and Doris try to stop their guffawing and giggling, but they are giggling and laughing. They stop, but they are not quick enough. Mrs. Pearson regards them with contempt and she gives them scornful looks and all. You two are always talking about being grown up. Why don't you both try for once to be your age? Why don't you behave the age in which you are? Can't we laugh also now? Like they ask, can't we laugh now? Yes, if it is funny, go on, tell me, make me laugh. I could do with it. You never understand our jokes, mom. When she says, include me also. So daughter says, you don't understand our jokes. Now the mother's answer. I was yawning at your jokes before you were born, Doris. So, what's making you talk like this? What have we done? The children are asking, especially Doris, what we have done. Nothing, but come and ask for something, go out again, then come back. When there's nowhere else to go, then your home is there to stay. Look, if you won't get tea ready, then I'll find something to eat myself. Why not? Help yourself. And she takes a sip of the stout. Right? So, I think it is a bit thick. I've been working all day. And same here, Doris says, same here, 8-hour day. Yes, 8-hour day, and don't forget it, I have done my 8 hours. Now Mrs. Pearson says, if you are working 8 hours, I have finished with my 8 hours. That's different. Dear students, we often forget our family members. I'm talking of parents, grandparents. We often forget if we are living in a joint family, there are many other members, brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, and we often forget them. Why we forget them? Because we are over occupied in our pursuits, and sometimes we forget the finer things of life, that spending time with family members is very, very important. So this chapter is raising this issue also, that mother longs their time, but they don't have time to give to the mother, right? So they're busy in their own matters and own outings and own, things. You can say they are a bit selfish, yes. So she's alone doing work, getting their things done. Now, so Mrs. Pearson, she says, I have finished my 8 hours. I have done my 8-hour duty. That's different. Of course it is. It was, now it isn't. She says, Doris says, it is, Cyril says that's different. Doris also accompanies him. Yes, of course, it is different type of work that you do at home, and the work that we do out is different. It was, now it is not. 40-hour week for all now. Just watch it. At the weekend, I have my 2 days off. So I'm going for an off for 2 days, right? Now Doris and Cyril are alarmed. Then they stare at Mrs. Pearson, who returns their looks calmly. She's calm now. Must grab something to eat. Looks as if I'll need to keep my strength up. Now Cyril says, I need some energy now to discuss these things and to bear how mother is behaving. Cyril exits to the kitchen, and Doris, moving to the settee anxiously, Mummy, you don't mean you are not going to do anything on Saturday and Sunday? And airily, no, I wouldn't go that far. I might make a bed or two and do a bit for you, not completely off. I'll have to be asked very nicely and thanked for everything that I'm going to do for you. Now she gives them a clue that I'm going to do something for you. It's not completely that I will be off, but you need to show some gratitude for everything that I do for you. Thank for everything, and whatever you do, you make fuss. When I help you out, you create fuss. That fuss has to be avoided and prohibited. But any of you 40-hour-a-weekers who expect to be waited on hand and foot on Saturday and Sunday with no thanks for it are in for a nasty disappointment, might go off for the weekend perhaps. Then I'll go for a weekend. Go off the weekend? Why not? I could do with a change. Stuck here day after day, week after week. If I don't need a change, then who does? Who else need a change? You people get every day that entertainment and occupation, and every time busy with one or the other thing. But where would you go? Who would you go with? That's my business. You don't ask me where you should go and who you should go with. Do you? That's different. The only difference is that I'm a lot older and better able to look myself. Now when the daughter says it is different, she says, yes, of course it is different. But different that I can take care of myself better than you. So it is you who should do the asking. Now, dear students, I hope you have understood with the conversation that what type of treatment the mother has been receiving for these years, and these children from youngsters have become teenagers and grown up, people, and still they are like that, right? I hope the lesson is clear with the help of these dialogues and conversations. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Do you fall or hit yourself with something? Now Doris asks, no, but I'll hit you with something. Now the mother says, I have not fallen down, but certainly I'm going to hit you with something. Girl, if you don't stop asking silly questions. Oh, this is awful. She begins to cry, and not passionately, right? Stop blubbering. You're not a baby. If you're old enough to go out with Charlie Spence, you are old enough to behave properly. Now stop it. And now the most important character, George Pearson, enters. We'll end this lesson, dear students, after a couple of minutes. So let's take this introduction and understand he's about 50, fundamentally decent, but solemn, self-important, like self-centered and pompous, very gaudy, very showy, right? Preferably, he should be a heavy, slow-moving type. He notices Doris. Doris tears. Doris is in tears. Doris is in tears. Hello, what's this? Can't be anything to cry about. You'll see. You yourself will come to know why I'm crying. Doris runs out left with a sob or two on the way. George stares after a moment, then looks at Mrs. Pearson. Did she say you'll see? Yes. What did she mean? What does she mean when she said that you will see on your own? Better ask her. You know, why don't you ask her only? Now George looks slowly again at the door and then at Mrs. Pearson. Then he notices the stout that Mrs. Pearson raises for another sip. His eyes almost bulge. Stout? Yes. What are you drinking stout for? Because I fancied some. At this time of the day you are drinking stout? Yes, what's wrong with it at this time of the day? Nothing. I suppose Annie, but I have never seen you do it before. Well, you will see me now. Yes, and I don't like it. And he says with a heavy distaste, I don't like it, whatever you are doing. It doesn't look right. I'm surprised at you. The husband says, I'm surprised at you. What do you mean? Well, that ought to be a nice change for you. I'm giving you a change that I can do this also. So what do you mean? It must be some time since you were surprised at me, George. I don't like surprises. George says, I don't like surprises, you know. I'm all ready for a steady going on. You ought to know that by this time. By the way, I forgot to tell you this morning, I wouldn't want any tea. Special snooker match night at the club tonight and a bit of supper going. So no tea. Dear students, now when we see the third character, that is after Cyril, Doris and George Pearson, the third one, we see that he is also like that. He has his own matches. Doris has to go out with someone and Cyril has to go to the nightclub. He is busy and so many other things, right, which keep, troubling Mrs. Pearson, right? Yes. Now, we'll continue this lesson, and if we see all these three characters, are they behaving well? Are they following the family norms? No. So this is the conflict that we discussed, and now mother with her friend who was first reluctant not to treat the family like this, but finally when the friend Mrs. Fitzgerald encouraged her, she started, taking little initiative, and this is going to result into something fruitful or not, or how much fruitful. The concluding part we finish tomorrow of this play.